All right, well, Jer Bear, we are in studio with Nifty Nikki, Tricky Nikki.
Dramatic pause.
I had to think.
Nikki,
I couldn't.
Where that was
Dobby.
Did you forget who our producer
What's
is?
the name gonna be?
No.
I knew he was looking for a nickname. I just didn't know which one he was going to go with.
Yeah.
I was ready to go with Nikki Ticky Tavi, but I remember that it hasn't been that well received.
I think it might be retired.
Nifty Nikki seemed to be the most popular one, and she's laughing.
Oh.
So I think that's what we're gonna have to go with.
That's fine. Nifty Nikki works for me. I don't know how much she likes it, but
I feel like we're fine. Whatever you want to go with, that's
Whatever
what
we want to go with.
we'll have to
We'll live
contact
there.
Davey and ask Davey what the nicknames for Nikki are,
Yeah.
and then see if there's any ones that we can actually use.
You know, the first time whenever I was dating Davey or started talking to Davey, he told me his name was Davey, and I was like Crockett?
Yeah,
And he was like, yeah. I'm like, oh,
but I would assume his given name is David.
it's David.
Okay,
Yeah.
it would be cool if it was Davey, but you don't meet a lot of Davies.
Yeah.
No.
Well, right. I mean, unless they're like 8.
Or sailors.
There you go.
Yes, we're here with Nikki, and we want to do, we've been, let's see, how many episodes have we put out so far? 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
We put out 4.
And they've all been really fun to do. They're pretty intense content, though.
It's been kind of heavy.
You got people
It's
sharing
been really heavy.
kind of their, and we've asked them to, but they're sharing their kind of, challenges in life and trauma and things like that. So we said, hey, people want to laugh. They want to smile.
They need a palate cleanser.
They need a palate
Bring out the Taylor Swift conspiracies.
Yes.
Yes?
And that's what the rest of this episode is going to be. So, subscribers, if you want to stick around for the Taylor Swift conspiracies, you found the right place. Otherwise, we invite you to go somewhere else.
Don't worry, guys. That's not what
No, so we
Just
thought
kidding.
we thought
I
it would be
wouldn't get
fun
that
to
lucky.
just get the crew together. Now, Revival Media, we have hundreds of employees, and so what we wanted to do is get the core group.
That's right.
The people that are behind the scenes, on the scenes.
Really the C-suite.
The heart, I would say.
Okay.
Let's get the heart together.
Okay.
And do a little bit of reminiscing and look back of our episodes, and let's just have a
Just
good
one of
time.
your favorite things to do.
I do like to reminisce and ruminate.
And look back.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but
You can't say this is one of your favorite things to do. Me ask you for a qualifier, and you say I don't know.
I just did.
You saying I live in the past?
Why do you interpret things?
I don't know. I probably need to find a
See?
therapist.
See?
Well, just
If the therapist
Let it
said,
ride.
this is what you do, you look back, I would be like, okay, explain that to me. But
then they
what
would-
is your explanation?
I'm not a therapist.
So you just widely throw accusations at me?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
I do like to look back and reminisce. It's important.
No, so
And I also like to look
Why do you
forward
like to do that?
Wait,
because there's good experiences that mold us of who we are.
do you remember
True
our
that.
very first episode this season where we're like, hey, let's just get back on the air one more time and let people know we're coming back?
Yeah.
In that episode, you were saying how you like to look back and reminisce and have nostalgia.
Wow. Nice
So
callback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice callback.
Now-
But thank you for assuming the worst.
Now
for
who
me.
looks like
Yeah.
the jerk in this conversation?
And that's why they call me the Cobra.
Very crafty.
Right.
Yes.
Totally.
Speaking of first episodes, what really kind of was our first episode or our first interview was with
It
Nikki.
was.
And I want to look back at that experience. And that was a really cool thing for Nikki to do. And she had a really cool story. I just, being kind of our kickoff interview episode after we've, are still trying to dust the cobwebs off of season 1. I'm a little like, oof, when I played it back because I was a bit rusty and a bit over anxious and things like that. And so she was good to kind of roll with us. But
She was.
what do you remember from that?
I remember some cringe on my part.
Yeah.
I remember listening to it in the truck driving down the road, and there was just some parts where I may have started screaming at the dash.
I totally
Like-
did that. It was ask the question, man. Get it out and ask the question. Because I not only do I like to reminisce, I like to meander a little bit. And I'm trying to get a
Your
little.
thoughts are sometimes a gentle stream
Thank you. That's very kind of
going
you.
down the mountain.
I think it's one of those things where you just open your mouth and don't know what you're going to say. And then as you are navigating it, you're just, put things together. And it's good to look back so we can look forward and become better.
right.
So I'm trying to be a little more succinct with my questions.
I think it's the Michael Scott approach.
It is.
Like at the wedding when he wrote out like 4 introductions just to see which one landed.
Yeah, he has some quote in there about sometimes I just start talking and
Yep.
to see where it's going to go.
That's
I
right.
can definitely relate to Michael Scott. But that's one of the things I like about our little dynamic we have is you are more like get to the point, like asking people if they started off with meth. And I'm more, let's add way too much context and build up to this question. And I think we're a good balance. Would you agree?
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes why sugarcoat it, man? I
I
just got to know.
I think it's a great talent.
If you're doing meth, was that your first drug?
Is this your
Well,
gateway?
besides our cringiness of episode 1, I thought Nikki's story was really cool about, it's weird to talk about her when she's right here. So
What about me?
Nikki, it was cool that you experienced things in life that you didn't ask for and you weren't expecting them, and you didn't always, some things I think you admit that you put yourself in situations to have those things
Sure.
happen or to experience that,
Sure.
but not everything. In both ways, you decided to kind of encounter those situations with, well, that was unfortunate. What am I going to do?
Way to
Maybe
go.
give myself a 5-minute cry and then
Yeah.
figure out how to move forward. And that, kind of honestly is the whole crux of this thing we're trying to do is show people that you are not alone in challenges in your lives. And these other people have had challenges in their lives, and what did they do? And they've all, kind of the common theme is they've all just kind of connected with some kind of personal power or motivator and said, yeah, this is unfortunate, not the greatest thing in the world, but how can I move forward? And what's really cool is these people are willing to be so vulnerable with their stories, because these are very sensitive topics.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
very personal experiences.
There.
And they're going to talk to 2 people who are not even close to even semi-professional interviewers or philosophers or therapists or whatever. We're just a couple of dudes asking their story, and they've been willing to do that. So, Nikki, do you tell us what was your experience like? You mentioned that it's always weird to hear yourself talk when you play back the episodes.
Yeah, it is.
But
for you guys, maybe not so much, right? You guys have
we're
been
kind of
doing
used
this a
to
little
it, I
bit
guess.
more often, and so listening to yourself or like watching yourself, I'm like, weird. But I'd have to say, I think that the reason that people want to do this is because they can see that it might make a difference in someone else's life. So that's why all these people are willing to come on and be vulnerable and share these stories. It's like, hey, this is pretty interesting that I've been able to turn things around. Maybe someone else could benefit from it. And I think that that's a recurring theme in all of these stories, right? They're all like, hey, I've changed my life. Let's help somebody else change their life too.
Yeah. What was some of the feedback that you got? I'm sure your family watched, maybe friends watched, Davey watched. Were they all like, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about this? Or
Yeah. So Davey, and obviously Davey knew everything, but he watched it and said, well, I didn't really like listening to you talk about your exes. That wasn't fun. So I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, people were really impressed that we were even doing something like this. And a few friends of mine are also friends with Tiffany, who was our second interview.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have reached out saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys are doing this. This is so amazing. Like her story was amazing. And so I think there's been a lot of good feedback along the lines of just sharing in general. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I really liked about your episode, Nikki, is you, without even trying to, kind of laid the blueprint out for the rest of everybody. As far as the theme I've gotten from everybody's interview is really own your mistakes, forget your past, and you have the tools to change your life however you want it to. You know, that was Colleen, her big message the other day when we interviewed her. And that's when I kind of realized that it kind of came full circle for me, is here's yet one more person saying, if you are unhappy with the way your life is, it's nobody's fault other than your own.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do something about it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to change everything overnight, but find some place where you're comfortable and make the small changes.
I think accountability and vulnerability is really hard, right?
Yeah.
Being accountable to major mistakes or major things that have happened in your life. It's so hard to be like, yeah, this is not just a small, like, I really screwed up. Like, this is going to be a long road. This is affect more than just me. You know, like in my case, it affects my family, my exes, my children, this is long-term effects from what I chose, right? And that's really hard to swallow. And I think for some people who are still living in those moments, like Tiffany, I'm sure that was probably a hard step to take, right? This is something I did. I put myself here. I've made all these mistakes, and now I have got to dig myself back out of this hole.
Yeah.
And I just think that's accountability is just, it's hard. It's really hard.
The ownership of those things is important.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned Tiffany, which was, I just kind of, this whole experience has been really, I think we've talked about it, Cody, that even for us, it's very good for us personally.
Oh, yeah.
That we get to sit across from these people and be like, man, I guess when I have something to complain about, I can think about, remember when Amelie was in her backyard being strangled to death? Or remember when Tiffany, was running from the cops and was ready to just give it all up? And the stories are incredible, and I think it's so good to just see that perspective. Yeah. But you mentioned Tiffany, and let's see if we can do this on the fly. So, technician Colin, can you bring up a short clip of Tiffany, the Tiffany episode?
Oh, there she is.
There you go.
It just goes.
And we're gonna get. There we go.
Anybody can do anything. Like she literally turned her life around 180 degrees.
Yeah, it's incredible. I just love the, I guess, juxtaposition of you in this complete.
Good word.
You had this kind of dark place in your life where all hope was essentially gone.
Yeah.
I'm sure at that moment you couldn't imagine where you are right now on the other side of those things, right? And I just think that's so powerful of the human condition and what you're talking about, Cody, of we do have this inner power to change, and a lot of us, I think, including Tiffany, will credit that to a higher power's help, but we can find that inner strength through some other path.
It just goes to show that.
Well, we picked a clip that was just more of us talking. But that was good. Very good, Colin. Thank you. By the way, Colin is my son, and he's reminded me a couple times that he's doing this without any salary or benefits.
Pro bono.
Pro bono. So we accept his efforts. But if someone hasn't looked back or listened to Tiffany's story, can you give like a 30-second overview of what you remember from that?
I mean, so what I took from her is she had some problems with addiction. She then lost her daughter, which really made her spiral hard into addiction. She kind of had that rock bottom moment where she realized that this isn't the way she wanted to live her life, and she started by getting clean, getting sober. She was also, after that point, she was able to gain full custody of her children, and she currently They're not married, but she
They're
calls
pretty
him her
much.
They're
husband.
basically married.
Yeah.
That they now live together in California and have a beautiful home and a beautiful family. And
Yeah.
you know, you saw a little bit of that in that clip Colin just pulled up, but she never thought after being homeless or being on a bridge with pills in her hand ready to end her life that she could have a life where she had a supportive partner and a home and a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that was, you know, at least for me, that was probably a little bit longer than 30 seconds.
I was amazed
Let's
at the
call
level
that-
of completeness that you provided in
Yeah,
that
the
time
45-second
That was
story.
wonderful. Yeah,
But go back and listen to all of it, like for real.
You need to. She was so just endearing. Tiffany is, and speaking of vulnerable, she just put it all.
She did
out there, and she shares some embarrassing moments about her life, and some really regrettable things about her life. And what if you go back and listen to the episode, I did a kind of a preview to that episode at the beginning, and I said, pay attention to who one of the real heroes of this story is, and it's her sister, who also went through some of the same addiction challenges and things like that, but always had this tether back to Tiffany and their mother trying to pull them along.
Yep.
And she never gave up on them, and ultimately, even after she helped Tiffany recover, then it was like, great, now let's go get mom.
Yeah.
And
they're all clean now.
And
continue to work in that capacity to help other people.
She finds a lot of joy, Tiffany mentioned, in helping other people.
Yeah.
And it seems like that was one of the motivators to make contact with you, Nikki, and put the story out there.
To help other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any other conversations with Tiffany and what that experience was like for her to be able to share her story?
She was just really looking forward. She kept asking me when we were going to release the episode because she wanted to share it with people. She wanted to share it with her friends and her family and stuff. And I think that they're all really proud of who she's become, and being able to share that on a platform like ours has been exciting for her. So,
Yeah. Well, Tiffany, if you're watching this, we miss you.
We do. You were a
you.
great episode.
We do need to
Thank
get
you
like
so much.
her husband, her sister. Maybe we can get like a family interview going. That'd be.
If only we had a producer who could hook that up.
Who knows them?
If only we had a budget that we could just fly everybody out here.
We are in the black. Is it the red or the black when you're doing bad?
The red.
I think we're in the red.
We're in the red.
Red.
We are in the red. But that's okay. That's okay.
Only one place to go.
We are in the black with blessings and experiences and
when you
meeting new
bottom,
people.
There's only one
All right, I'm like, we only have one way to go.
All right, so after Tiffany, do you remember the next episode we did?
Oh, now you're going to make me think. So after Tiffany, was it Amelie?
Yes.
Amelie.
Yeah. Tell the world about Amelie.
Amelie was not as spicy as her little sister.
What do you mean?
By her own admission, Amelie said that her little sister was spicier than her. But she was plenty spicy.
She was pretty spicy.
She brought us food.
She did. Sorry to interrupt
catering.
you. To your point, I just interrupted you again. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But the funny thing about Amelie's interview is that we got times mixed up, and so she showed up an hour before she was supposed to go on.
This was the first in-person one. You're like,
the
she's
first
here. And I'm like,
in-person,
oh no.
and so I think I just got home from work or something, and I'm a little disheveled and a little out of sorts, and then this nice lady rings the doorbell, and she's standing there with goods, with food, and it took me a couple seconds, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is probably Amelie. And she's like, I'm here for an interview. And can you imagine her, who's like, listen, a lot of this is smoke and mirrors. We tell you that we have a studio. We tell you that we have this company or whatever. It's my home and a shed in the backyard, ultimately. So she pulls up to my driveway. She's trying to find this studio. I meet her at the front door. it took me no time to realize how just kind and sweet she was. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, we weren't expecting you yet. But she's like, oh, do you want me to leave? I'm like, no. Let's hang out. And so I walked her back to the shed / studio, and we got to hang out with her for like half an hour or so before we even got started. And I think that was really good because we got to kind of like, I get nervous when I'm meeting people, and I want them to feel comfortable. And sometimes I get a little too overzealous with that and make things weird. But she was cool, and we got to just kind of relax with her and then start her story. But man, her story really is incredible. You know, a lot of, well, all the episodes we've put out so far have been women who are expressing some history of abuse. You know, there's usually some substance abuse for some family member or themselves, and then there's always something about abuse. And certainly Emily's story is centered on that as well. But do you remember all the different forms of education or training that she had in her life?
Okay. Yeah. So,
That was
I mean,
really
not
impressive.
all of them, but she
impressive.
was an executive for Bank of America through the countrywide.
It was another, maybe you're right, through countrywide.
Mortgage, whatever, lending. She worked for the construction company.
Yes.
Yeah.
She did the cooking and what else not.
Yeah.
She
was training to be a
Law
cop.
enforcement.
Oh yeah, she was a cop.
She was
Law
training to be a
enforcement.
cop as her husband at the time was dabbling in hard narcotics.
Yeah.
And abusing her.
And abusing her.
Yeah.
And remember, she mentioned why she developed a love for police work. Like she was like, I think I found my passion, but because of that relationship and stuff, she kind of had to bow out of it,
Yeah.
which was
Crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
She graduated from high school early after dropping out of high school
For 2 years.
for 2 years, I think. And then she went. I know she had some computer science or something to do with that. And I even think she was studying law.
Yeah.
So
And she lived
it's
in
astounding.
India.
was it India?
Yeah, she lived in India for a minute.
Yes, she was super colorful.
She's
and
done everything.
Saucy in the most complimentary way. She was saucy. Saucy's is because her last name is Sacedo, remember?
Yes. No, I'm just trying to think of how could anyone interpret saucy as anything but.
I don't know.
Like sassy, maybe?
I just don't want her to look
Yeah.
back and be like, Jared called me saucy. And I don't know how that really feels. But Emily, in the best way, you were saucy. And so now she's running her catering business.
Yeah. Saucies.
But
Yeah.
I alluded to it before, but her abuse got to the point where her life was almost taken from the abuse. So I remember her story being very intense, but she herself was just so light and lovely and positive. And
Like, yeah, it happened. Whatever.
yeah. So if you haven't listened to Emily's episode, pause this. You're not getting much out of this.
Yeah.
Go back.
Go listen to her.
Pause this and go
She's
listen
amazing.
to Emily. She was very, very kind and very vulnerable and very sweet. And she brought sandwiches.
She fed you,
She
so.
did.
And the
They
sandwiches were amazing.
delicious.
So come back, Emily, and bring us
Bring
some more
more
sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
Okay, so that was a really cool interview. And then
So are we gonna
oh
pull
yeah,
up a clip?
let's try this again. Let's watch Colin fumble through pulling a clip of Emily.
You're doing great.
You're doing
Colin.
great.
Hey, there you go.
Hey.
From cold calls to catering.
We need some Jeopardy music in the background. I can always put that in.
Do.
He said I perform better if you paid me.
Your life, then you have the fight of your life. You disconnected from that situation for at least a couple of years, going into hiding. Are you still?
Your CNN on?
What's that mean?
That was such a good headline.
What?
You've been a fighter your whole life, and then you had the fight of your life, right?
Well, I wasn't even aware I was having momentum, and then you just stopped me.
I know, I was just so blown away by the train of Jer Bear.
Let me cook as the. My goal is to make Colin cringe at least once an episode.
Just did it.
Okay, but honestly, you've been a fighter your whole life. Yes. Had the fight of your life. You've been a fighter.
Okay.
Keep forgetting. And you also made me cringe again, so that's great.
Yeah.
It was like a cringeception.
Yeah, we probably should have marked these and had these ready queued up for the good ones. Because again, that was just showcasing me and Cody being knuckleheads.
Instead of you guys.
Well, that's just a little tease for the viewer. That you should go back and actually listen to our episode.
If you're trying to find us not being knuckleheads, man, I don't know. There's not much to offer.
And hopefully that makes people a little more comfortable sharing their stuff, that there's a
right.
little levity added to it.
I have to say, everybody that's reached back out, everybody has reached back out, and everybody has talked about how wonderful you guys are and how much they really liked you. So you've made everybody feel very comfortable, and everyone likes you guys. So
Hold my
good
hand
job, boys.
for just
Oh my God.
thank you. Okay, so
Sorry, I'm not good with
Nikki.
PDA. I could be better.
I actually want to play this game. Let me see if
Dun, dun,
you
dun.
can remember, either of you can remember the titles to these episodes. So
Oh,
what
boy.
was Nikki's episode title?
You are more.
Very good. We need our ding bell. Ding.
Ding ding.
Okay, episode 2. Do you remember? Amelie?
That was
No,
Emily. It was
episode
Tiffany.
two.
Was
Oh, excuse me,
episode two.
Tiffany. This is a pretty clever. Actually, she said this phrase, and I thought that was really cool, and I used it as a title.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
My pain,
my pain was my
purpose.
purpose.
My pain became my purpose, which
Yep.
is really cool. All right, Amelie was. I don't even remember myself.
He's titled these people.
I have. It'll come back to me. I'm sure it was clever. All right, let's go. Let's talk about our episode 4. This is the most recent one that's been published from this airing of this whatever we call this this look back, this reminiscing, and that was with Sarah. So tell me about Sarah and what you thought about that.
So her story was another one featuring abuse. We seem to.
This isn't the end. That was Amelie's. This isn't the end.
This isn't the end. Yep, you're right.
Interrupting Jerry. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a little ADD.
I don't know what I
A little
have. Again, I need a therapist.
I don't know what I have. Something.
There's something. If there's a spectrum, I'm on
wrong
it. I don't
with
know
me.
what it is.
No, so Sarah, if you remember, had what she talked about as religious trauma
Yeah.
because she was married young. She had a lot of church involvement in her young life, and a lot of people telling her while she was in this abusive relationship, just stick it out. You're fine.
Yeah.
You're not. The problem is not him. The problem is you and your perspective.
Right.
And hers, the biggest thing that stuck out to me from hers was her soon-to-be ex-husband that came and stole all the window units out of where they were living.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
and
his poor little kids.
And you said something like, it's one thing to take your window unit. Like, that's not cool,
Right.
but we can move past it, I guess.
Right.
But to take your kids' ACs,
Yeah.
you were mad about it. And I said,
am.
I think I'm getting a little heated about that myself. And I didn't even mean to make the pun. Heated.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's very good.
That's the kind of content you're going to get if you dedicate an hour and a half of your life to watch
You're welcome
a very,
in advance.
whatever this thing is. But
And her episode is called Enough, right?
Enough, which was cool. And she actually references the Jennifer Lopez flick, Enough.
She does.
And she related to that. And so at some point she decides that the relationship with her husband, the father of her children, she stuck that out for 9 years. And that was one of my questions I asked her, why do people stick things out if they're in an abusive relationship? And she talked about that. And one of those elements was kind of they were involved in the church. They were kind of involved with the youth. There were some optics there.
Yeah.
They were encouraged to stay together. But also, I think some of these women who've shared the stories of abuse and kind of disconnecting from their spouse or companion is, realistically, you have to have a place to live, and you have to be able to financially support, and you're taking children away from their father. So it's
There's so many
more of a
aspects.
complicated decision that I think that some people might think when they were like, well, if you're getting things stolen, you're abused and whatever, just get out of there. And so that was interesting. And I think she, again, finally was like, all right, I've I've tried the best I can, and now it's enough. And so
Do you remember that you taught her that Plenty of Fish was a Christian dating app and not just a regular
Yeah,
one?
she
that was
didn't
pretty
know that.
surreal.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Because-
realize she didn't know that.
Well, when she talked about her religious trauma, which I'm inferring that there was a bit of a souring between religion or Christianity
Sure.
and her life
There is,
now.
yeah, she said that there
And
is,
so I was
yeah.
like, but you went to Plenty of Fish to find this guy? And she's like, well, yeah. And I was like, that's a Christian dating site. And she said, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she did it because she found Ian. Remember Ian?
Yeah.
Super
6'9".
super tall, which I also think is funny. I'm glad that these women who come to the studio bring their male companion, their husbands and
Yeah.
stuff. That's a good move. I actually respect that a lot.
Yeah.
But Ian shows up and no one's gonna mess with that guy.
No.
But he ends up being a really sweet guy.
Oh, yeah.
But
He was the best. He was super nice.
yeah,
And we needed to get him on for his own episode.
he mentioned he has some good
He
information about this area we live in and some of the dark alleys of
Ooh.
of this area. But what did you? What else, Cody? Did you? What do you think people will get if from watching Sarah's episode?
That's a good question. So I was actually talking with my dad today about it. He just finished,
Kevin, how's it going, Kevin?
He just
Shout out to
finished
Kevin.
watching Sarah's episode, and I think one of the big takeaways from her is just, again, it is never too late to change for the better. And it might be painful in the short term, but in the long term, it's always going to make you happier than the short term, numbing you do daily. I don't know. That was, like she said, enough.
Yeah,
She was strong enough, brave enough to face that short-term pain, overcome, have found her Ian.
yeah,
And I don't know, that's my takeaway. What about you, pal?
yeah. I think what's cool is these people who've lived these experiences now become advocates for others.
Yeah.
And Sarah mentioned that her and Ian really enjoy kind of being advocates for all sorts of people with all sorts of backgrounds, whether they're homeless or they're going through relationship issues or they're trying to find their identity. That now she can kind of, and if you notice, that's one of, I think it seems like there's a few questions that I always go back to, common questions that I ask every one of our interviewees, and at least I allude to that because of your experiences, you can now be this kind of unique counselor or advisor or advocate to other people in a way deeper and more powerful way than otherwise
You
could
understand.
be.
Yeah.
So you have those common experiences, and they've all said yes, absolutely, and they find a bit of joy or fulfillment in being able to do that. So they continue to find positive in their struggles that they now can help other people, and Sarah certainly represents that, and that was really cool. And she wants to open a coffee shop, but she doesn't know anything about coffee.
Yes, that was.
That's what I remember too.
You don't need to know anything.
She was very sweet.
If you build it, they will come.
We do actually have a Sarah clip. So Colin, go find our YouTube channel. By the way, we have 31 subscribers. If we can get to 36, I think we'll have a pizza party. So find the Idaho Gack clip off of YouTube.
Oh, goodness. I remember
Now,
this.
for our younger listeners, Gag is slime.
Gag.
I was gonna say, I grew up with I played with calendars, man. That's all we had. We were poor too. Yeah. I thought it was the same. And ours was send it too. Smell like shit.
So I have to be honest, I totally exploited you. I just thought you were so funny.
That's okay. I was listening to her episode. It was yesterday. I was listening in my truck and I heard that. I forgot I said it and I died laughing.
Well, you're an Idaho boy.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Cody the Cobra Calloway. Is that fair, Nikki?
Yeah,
You have
let's
some,
do it.
maybe we can do some bio questions about
Dun,
Cody.
dun, dun.
So, who is the Cobra?
That's
Beyond the manure.
beyond the manure. There's a lot that's been redacted. And we'll leave it that way. I don't know. I mean, what do you want to know?
Well, I'll give a real quick bio.
Okay.
One, Cody is one of my greatest friends in life. We got to the point where we can do the brotherly shove and the brotherly love in the relationship, and he's a good wingman. You come from Idaho, and this is what I think is really cool about your backstory and your family. You guys were literally farmers.
Yeah.
So, like, waking up at the 4 in the morning and going and walking through the snow and whatever, and having to de-thaw the ice for the cows and whatever, and then go to school,
Yeah.
and then maybe some other job or whatever, and then do it all over again. Your family are just very hardworking people.
They
And
are.
I think that's kind of shaped who you are, for sure. Maybe better or worse
Right.
from that experience. And so you came down from Idaho. You found your way to Texas as quickly as you could by way of a really amazing woman, your wife.
That's right.
And that's how we got to know each other. You kind of moved to this area, and we started going to church together. By the way, all three of us are members of the same faith, the same church, and that's kind of how we got to become more friends. And our faith, I would say, is a big motivator in why we're doing this. And there's a lot of principles about our faith and our belief in a higher power and Christ that really we know can be a solvent for some of these wounds and some of these issues. And so, anyways, that's how you and I met. And we were talking before, we don't do this full time.
No.
You have a full-time job. I have a full-time job. Nikki has a full-time job. And
She has like two or three.
Two or
How many
three.
full-time jobs do you have
I
now?
don't even know anymore.
You've lost count.
we all have kids. We all have, doing
That's
other
right.
types of volunteer work. What makes you want to do this show?
If I can put any good out there into the ether, it makes me feel better. And I selfishly, every guest we've interviewed has benefited me and helped me, I feel, have the correct perspective on life.
Yeah.
It's a more positive outlook, and I hate to say positive outlook because it's not that positive is always correct, but in this case it has been. You listen to Emily talk about almost getting strangled to death, or Sarah talking about her in-laws always, talking
Yeah.
about the way she was raising her kids, or everything with Tiffany. It just, I've had my fair share of what I felt was hard.
Yeah.
It was nothing like that. I am so glad that the struggles I've had are the struggles I've had.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I could have overcome the things that they've overcome.
Yeah.
And so selfishly, I love doing this because it kind of gives me the wind in my sails I need to get me through to.
I thought I gave you the
the
wind in
next
your
one.
sails.
You do.
Okay. But there's extra wind in your
There's
sails.
there's typically like 3 sails on a boat.
I also can take the wind completely out of your sails.
Every now and again. So you would do it on the main
It's
sail.
a push and pull type
That's
situation.
right. And there's other sails. And
No, good night.
there's southern winds.
And I admit that. You're a good friend to stand by me with all my quirks and stuff. So
You're the best.
it's been fun.
What about you?
Yeah, I'll talk about me, but I think you kind of reminded me of something. I was joking with Nikki. We should have called her podcast Perspective instead of Pivotal, because that's what it's doing for everybody. And it's not, these stories we hear, it's not to minimize our own challenges. I mean, the challenges that you've had, and you've had, Nikki, well, you were on our show, or I've had, or other people who are watching, they're like, man, it hasn't been that intense. But it doesn't mean that it hasn't affected you personally, and it's not to minimize your own. But you can still relate somehow to these people and find some encouragement from them. So I think that's cool. And I'm with you, Cody. It's just we I think I'll use the word selfish as well. And I'm selfishly trying to find a little more fulfillment in my own life. I have a good job and a good career, but it's not doing anything for anybody. And so that's one of my motivators is I want to feel that we're doing something good. And so that's kind of our mantra, is putting some good out into the world. And it's been really fun and fulfilling to do that. Who am I? I don't know. Again,
Still trying to figure
The
it out.
Jer Bear Jared.
I'm the Jer Bear. Just a dude. I've got a beautiful wife and an awesome family.
Well, you did my bio.
That's
So
Here we go.
I've only known Jared about 10 years. But from what I know, so I used to work with one of Jared's, how long were you and Chris friends? Childhood?
since high school.
Since high school.
Yeah.
So one of Jared's high school friends, so I got some of the inside scoop that way. And my wife is born and raised in the same area Jared was, so there's a little bit that way. So what I know about Jared is he was a very good young man. He didn't do a lot of troublemaking growing up. He could get a little snarky at times, is what some of his old Sunday school teachers said.
Yes.
But
it's because I'm so square and don't do anything exciting in my life and got into no trouble. I make up for it by being snarky and sarcastic.
definitely, yeah. Did you
Go ahead.
Did you get into trouble?
Not really. I mean, it all depends on
okay.
who you ask, but
I didn't really either, though.
not
growing
really. I
up,
mean,
so-
I think I got sent to the principal in junior high once I made fun of one of my teacher's mothers.
The snarky. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. It's usually my mouth that gets me in trouble. I don't
Yeah.
do a whole lot of things other than that. But
So Jared was in a band called the Knockout Kings that played here in Fort Worth. And you guys were, how would you describe?
bad.
Well, not that. What was the sound Knockout
It was like
Kings
it was
going
like a
for?
emo, like that. Remember 2001, 2002 era? Emo was really up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thursday.
So emo, screamo, kind of a Taking Back Sunday, Thursday, pop punk emo ripoff band,
There you go.
and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And then meeting my wife, having a kid, that lifestyle doesn't always mesh well. And I'd like to tell you that I retired out of the band, but I was forcefully asked to retire out of the band.
So he may have given up on that band, but he recently started a new band
No.
called Dad Bod and the Squad, and they played their first gig at a stake dance
Yeah.
Yes.
for all of the youth. And so from what I know of Jared is he is also one of my dearest friends. He's always been a super good dude. He's always been a good example of, what are you looking at me for?
I was like, uh-oh.
No, you've always been a good example of just living the gospel, being a good person,
Well, thank you. Thank you.
balancing your life.
Yeah.
I've always looked kind of, I think that's partially why we get along so well, is we share that approach to a lot of issues of just balancing. But Jared was a really good guy that way, and then I didn't like him for a minute because I was the young men's president and got released, and I wasn't ready to be released, and then they called him.
What a jerk.
No, it wasn't his fault. I didn't.
No.
Not at all.
I asked
Did,
to keep you in
he
the
tried
presidency.
to keep me, but I knew how cool Jared was, and I knew that the boys were going to forget all about me,
Aw.
which they
That's
did
not
after
true.
about 2 weeks.
That's
and
not
that's
true.
okay. That's okay. So there was a minute where I was like, darn it, why'd they have to call someone so cool to replace me?
Well, I struggle with compliments of accepting them, but thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that one of these young men that got to experience President Calloway and President Abraham, as their young men's leader, has reached out to me and invoked your name specifically and said, it's because a lot of where I'm at, and he's an active member in his faith, and he's got a wonderful family, and a lot of where I'm at is because of Brother Calloway and Brother Abraham. Now that's cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Cool.
That's cool. So don't you think for a minute people forgot about you. You had a good impact on their life too.
That's awesome.
And that's certainly something that we bond over is our for those who are not members of the LDS Church, you probably have figured out by now that I told you earlier in the episode, but we do a lot of volunteer work, unpaid ministry and things like that, and we can share those experiences too. Nikki does as well. She teaches our youth at church, and they mentioned that she's, her and Davey are about the coolest. She does bribe them with food, but that's just smart. I mean,
gotta get them to listen.
Emily did the same thing. I mean, that's just smart using food.
Common sense.
And
So-
I have one of your children
Yes.
in my class, and he's not snarky at all. Even whenever I call him out in class in front of everybody, he's a gem.
Well,
So
Sweet.
it's
Good job,
unfortunate that you
Daddy
won't have
Abraham.
my youngest son, because he does have his father's snark.
just a smidge.
Well,
A couple more facts though about Jared. We're almost done.
my bio for you is like
he's
2
a
minutes.
very concise
I know.
question asker.
Not true.
Yes.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
You
When
do
we
ask
go
good
on
questions,
beach
just-
trips, you are not an ocean swimmer.
I don't love the ocean. My wife has really helped me appreciate the beach and the ocean. I wasn't a beach ocean guy before I met her, and she is. And the ocean terrifies me, as it should everybody. It's vast. You can't see things. It's deep and dark, and there's so many creatures and stuff, and they all want to hurt you. They want to bite you. They want to sting you. They want to whatever. And so, yeah, you get into the ocean, and I'd love to just be able to let my hair down and be like, let's swim in the ocean. This is amazing. While there's stingrays and sharks and jellyfish just waiting to
Electric eels.
You should
Electric
talk to Davey about
eels,
this. He actually feels
ocean
the same
bears.
way. We went on a cruise, and he was like, "There's no control out here. Like I have
Exactly.
no control over anything that's happening." Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
terrifying.
don't agree, but yeah.
So, but I get in and I wait out a little more
You
than I have in the past, and I enjoy it. I like the feel of the waves crashing over me. And
That's just these are the things I know about you. It's only been 10 years.
yeah,
And when we go on water slides, you don't go down the biggest jump.
I'm not a heights guy either.
No,
So I don't even know why Jamie's with me, because I'm not very fun or adventurous.
because you balance her out.
yeah,
Yeah,
opposites attract.
Jamie she'd do something crazy.
Jamie is super fun and adventurous. She would do something crazy. She likes to parasail in the over the
Yeah.
ocean, and she gets excited about the time where there was a huge, is it school of jellyfish or gang or
Well,
murder?
jellyfish, I don't know. A murder.
That's crows.
It's a murder. And she was like, and they
You
were
see
gonna
murder.
jam.
They were jam. I like it. I guess the boat slowed down, and she was like feet from just like collapsing in this jam. And she was like, it was so crazy, it was so fun. Meanwhile, I would be screaming like a woman.
I'd be pissing myself.
So yeah, we have taken beach trips together.
We
Or
have.
just the one. We need to get another one
We
on.
need to get another one. We did go on the slides at Waco.
Yes, and you. You want to talk about that, or
No.
it's kind of a long story? But you're very fun. The point is, we're just a couple of normal dudes,
We are.
and we really enjoy doing this podcast. It is work. It can be stressful at times, but every time we're done with the interview, I think you and I either high five or hug and say, "Man, that was amazing."
So glad we did this.
Do you want to
And then
kind
they
of?
immediately text me and say, "Oh my gosh, Nikki, thanks for that interview. That was
Yes.
great."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah."
Can you share? I mean,
it.
you already have shared some feedback that you've gotten, but has there been any more kind of thrown your way of what we're doing, or the guests that have been on? It's been a good experience for them.
Yeah. All of the guests have had great experiences so far. So we'll see. And we have obviously episodes we haven't released yet.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
kind of tease some upcoming
Oh.
episodes. So do you remember some of the episodes, Cody, we've done
Well, you
that
had
we
already
haven't
mentioned
released yet?
Colleen, so that was the latest one you guys
We
just
have
did.
Colleen,
So she's
which
coming
was
up in a.
a couple
Which was
days
very
ago.
cool of her because I didn't realize I was pronouncing her name wrong for half the episode of Colleen. And then
It's Colleen.
Did you know it was Colleen the whole time?
Well,
And didn't say anything?
I wasn't sure, but I think I guessed right.
Okay. Well, sorry, Colleen. We know I called you Colleen for a minute.
Yeah.
She was super cool.
And Leah.
Yeah.
Leah.
I think
That's
that
what
was
I
our
get.
most interesting one.
That was our most colorful guest.
Yes.
She was the spiciest.
She was very spicy. That was fun.
That
I
was
think
a
that
She's
was
blast.
probably
blast.
the one that made you guys the
Totally.
most uncomfortable.
I was just gonna say-
and she is probably so happy about that too.
she's going to wear that as a
Easily.
badge of honor,
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sure.
Easily.
But I really liked her. She was so kind and fun.
She was.
But you could tell she kind of enjoyed making us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And our lack of being professional, whatever, really showed because some questions or some responses or some stories she would share, we'd be like, okay,
We don't know what to do now.
what do we do with that?
Can we go to commercial? Darn it, we don't have any
But I do have to
sponsors.
say that she's one that has reached out and been like, oh man, like I didn't realize what an effect recounting my story to people in this way,
Yeah.
how it was going to affect me. So I'm wondering if there's been any others like that, man,
Yeah.
you know, maybe they didn't break down here or cry for us, which I mean, some of them have.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back at it, been like, holy crap, that was a lot emotionally to let out, you know.
I'd
for
like
people.
to think that it can be cathartic for people
Yeah.
to do that. And I remember that with Leah, where she does put on a kind of a exterior
Yeah,
of
she's tough.
deflection,
Yeah.
and I'm going to bring it to you rather than you bring it to me.
Totally.
And then I think she kind of shared or kind of admitted that towards the end of the episode, where sometimes I want to apologize to them for having them relive some of this
Oh, I know.
difficult stuff. But I think it caught her kind of off guard that
Yeah.
she connected a little bit
Right.
and let that guard down a little bit. And
Yeah.
I hope that was okay and it's a healing thing for people. But that was a really interesting episode, and they were very sweet. And then, who was the other lady that we interviewed? She had vertigo. Oh no! I hope she doesn't watch this episode. She's like, "Wow, you guys were able to name everybody else except
Are we only missing one?
Vertigo or vitiligo?
vertigo." Her husband showed up. He was super cool. He sat in the driveway,
Oh, yes.
and I was like, "Do you want to come in?" And she's like, "No, he's not allowed to come in with me."
Oh, shoot.
Oh, she didn't let him in. I wasn't here for that one.
Wasn't Megan? It wasn't Allison.
Donna.
Was it Donna?
You guys had a Donna, right?
Was it Donna? Well, I think we're all going to be excited to go back and watch whatever episode I'm talking about, and we'll all be surprised.
And then we
With the
have
content
like
there.
multiple scheduled, right?
Yeah, we need some dudes. So we have some dudes lined up.
So we do have some dudes lined up.
So I've had people actually talk to me and want to look at getting on the show.
Yeah.
So how do they do that if they're interested in exploring what it would look like to be on our show?
So they could message us on Facebook. They can message us on Instagram. They could email us and just reach out and tell me, hey, I want to be on, and then I can have that discussion with them, tell them kind of what they could expect, and they can share a tidbit of what they want to share so that we can make sure it's obviously a good fit. And we'll go from there, get them on the schedule. We usually have multiple dates over the next month available. I think we only have a couple more maybe for this month, so then we'll be out into July. But
Yeah.
we'll definitely be able to work with
Yeah.
the schedules, and happy to.
Yeah, I think it's and we probably want to wrap up pretty quick. But first of all, Donna, I want you to know that I remember you, and you were so cool. You're very sweet. you shared a story about how you had a book. You were writing a book of your
Yes.
experiences as you took care of, was it her father maybe as he was dying? She had a
Yes.
parent that she was taking care of as they were dying. And her episode was a lot about no one really gives you kind of the blueprint of how to handle that situation. And so she actually kind of took some time and to help others started writing this book with the idea of it being more of a blueprint. And she was really, really sweet. So
Well, a lot of these people have written books too.
yeah,
And it seems like, we're kind of getting I shouldn't say getting lucky, but we're finding people that have a desire to help others and put good out there into the ethos.
Yeah.
So
and it's so cool. And a lot of that is just people within a radius of 15 miles from us. So just think about how amazing people are across the world. Like just from talking to these people, there's other people and I like to think that most people in the world are good people that just want to help other people.
absolutely.
And so for we want, I think it's women are more open to sharing than men are. I don't know if that's the reason why from the get-go we had more women contact you, but
Or if because I'm a woman, so I put it out there.
sure.
Maybe
And
women
we're
are
bad at
just more-
social media and getting anybody.
So I mean that might be, but
Colleen
we
said
have had a few.
that's how she found us was through you.
Yeah,
and
so
Facebook.
I had posted something about the podcast looking for people to be on, and then someone suggested to me that I should reach out to Colleen.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't even like her responding, it was somebody being like, hey, this person's great, like go ask them. And so that's how I got into contact with her, and she was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And so there's been lots of different ways that we're getting people, and sometimes it's through social media, and sometimes it's through just word of mouth.
Yeah, but I think what's cool now is I'm having the same experience, Cody, where I've had a couple of guys that I recognize either at work or in my sphere of life being like, you would be really good to be on this show. And they're like, yeah, I'll come do that. Or they've come to me and be like, let's do this thing. So
I love it. I'm excited.
if for the dudes that are out there or anybody out there who's like, let's hear from some dudes, it's coming. It's we've got some queued up, and I think that'll be cool to hear their perspective.
And if you're a dude
of
out there
things.
and want to hear from dudes, tell your dude friends that they need to reach out to us, or you guys reach out.
Yeah, and keep in mind, again, this first crop of interviews we've done, the commonality has been a lot about abuse, relationships, drug use, substance, and things like that. But we want to talk to anybody about any component of change, career changes, health changes,
marriage.
Yeah, just
Children,
something happens in your life
yeah.
where I keep using this analogy where there's kind of the fork in the road and you decide to take one way over the other. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
And what did you learn from that? When you go back and reminisce or look back at it, what's the story behind that? Where did you get the power to change and whatever? So that's a very general statement. So if you listen to our podcast and are like, well, I don't have, much abuse or substance abuse in my life.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a crazy situation or story. That's not really what we're looking for. And some people's situations and challenges aren't a great magnitude like that. Like that's not everybody's thing. And so
Yeah.
Well, the vast majority of people aren't like that.
Right.
The vast majority of people, their struggle is just getting through another day of, I don't know. I feel like people get bored with their lives, and that's really what the struggle is.
Yeah.
And so just giving them an outlet to say, this is how I get through, I think that's helpful. So if you want to do that, even give us your secrets, your life hacks.
Yeah.
Yes. Find us on social media. Email us at email@theotherbros.com and get in contact with us. And let's see if we can grow this thing so more people can have the advantage that we've had of listening to amazing stories and being able to have some perspective and some hope. So anything else to add?
We need subscribers. So if we can get to 1,000 subscribers,
send us your ideas. Cody and I are willing to do
What do you want
up
them
to
to
a
do,
certain
y'all?
point of some ridiculousness and some silliness.
I won't get a tattoo.
No,
I
temporary.
will I'll get a temporary. I will shave my beard.
Wow, I don't want to
guys.
see that.
I'm willing to throw my beard on the line for this.
Okay.
Okay.
So give us your ideas.
Yeah.
1,000 subscribers, and we will pick one of your crazy ideas to what we can make
Yes.
these guys do.
Just don't make it hurt too bad. Remember, we're both almost 40 and things hurt now.
Yes. And
Okay.
if we choose your idea, you will win a locket of Cody's beard.
There you go.
We don't have to do that, guys. Don't worry.
All right. Well, Cobra, Nikki, thanks for hanging out.
Jerry Bear, thank
Always.
you.
We'll see you on the next look back.
Yeah.
Bye.
See y'all.
Hey, you ended that episode without some ridiculous, like, long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty good, right? I'm getting there.